Are you an adult just getting started with the piano and finding it very difficult to find solid practice time? If so, then hey, I get it. It's tough to find practice time as an adult pianist. However, with just a few minutes of practice a day with the right structure, you can actually make a ton of progress at the piano. So stay tuned for the rest of the video because I think I have the perfect solution for you. Now, I've dealt with many adult students over the years, and I have found that this 10-minute practice routine gets solid results every single time. By the way, it's Josh with Piano Frenzy, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any videos. Okay, so I know you're tight on time right now, so let's hop right into this practice routine so you can see exactly what you should do. So every great practice routine needs a solid warm-up, so we're going to start with pentatonic scales. In this case, there will be major pentatonic scales. We'll start on C major, 5 notes up, and 5 notes down. Move up to D major, we're gonna add the sharp. E major, 2 sharps now. And etc. Now to make the most of your pentatonic scale warm-ups, you're gonna put both hands together. Then D major. E major. Another way you can maximize your pentatonic scale warm-ups is to add a chord at the end of it. So for example, if I did C major, I'll end it with a triad. D major, end it with a triad. And this works really well because when you're tight on time, it's a nice way where you can combine 2 types of warm-ups all in one. You're playing your triads, plus you're getting your hands moving, you're playing partial scales. It's a really great exercise. And of course, let's not forget the minors. We gotta make sure we play both modes. So here's the minors. Now switching between the minor and the major modes is very easy because all you have to do is change finger 3 in this case. So if you know what your major modes are, it's really easy to play your minor modes. So as you can see, pentascales are a great way to warm those fingers up. Plus you can double it and get some triad work out of it as well. It's really effective. Now, here's the next practice routine. So the next exercise you can do when you only have 10 minutes a day or so to practice is to do 1 octave scales. However, we want to make the most of them, so we're going to do them with different articulations. So for example, the first time we'll play them legato. And then go back to the same scale but staccato now. Then you can move up to the next major scale. Staccato. So the reason I like doing this part of the routine is because when you do the articulations, you're able to work on skills you're going to need in real music, right? Everything's not always slurred and legato. Sometimes you have to be able to bounce and jump around. And so this is a great way where you can work on not only your ups and downs, your finger patterns, your crossovers, your cross unders, but you can also work on how you attack the keys. So although scales may seem like a boring practice routine, once you start adding articulations to them, then it becomes a lot more exciting and you get a lot more extra work out of it. It's like you're doubling your output by doing it this way. Now I want to show you how arpeggios can be worked into your practice routine to not only help you with your technique, but also help you with new pieces that you're playing right now. So let's talk about that. So at this point, we're only a few minutes into our 10-minute daily piano practice routine, which means we have time to add arpeggios. So for this exercise, I like to use the 1 octave arpeggio, the 4-note arpeggio, so we use fingers 1, 2, 3, and 5. And here's how we'll ascend the keys by doing this. So we'll start the hands on C, up, then to D, and then E major, F major, G major. Now, because we're in the beginning stages of our piano journey, I wouldn't put the hands together quite yet. That's actually going to take a lot more out of your practice time. And remember, we only have 10 minutes to get some things done. So I would do this hand separate for now. Just so you can see the left hand, same fingering, 5, 3, 2, 1 is backwards. We'll go up, up, and then E major, and etc. By the way, I have several videos on arpeggios because I love them so much, so make sure you check out the links in the description. so you don't miss that content. So now we're gonna get a little more advanced and we're gonna start adding triads with inversions. I think it's important that you do this so you feel comfortable with all sorts of repertoire. So we're gonna talk about how to do it right now. We'll start on a C major triad, all the notes down at once. Then what we'll do is play the inversion, which means the middle note becomes the bottom note. We'll keep the other keys, G and C. All right, that's our first inversion. Then we go to the second inversion. Middle note, which is now G, becomes the bottom note. We'll keep our C and our E. And then back to root position where the middle note, which is C, now becomes our bottom note, just like we did the first one. So there's two ways you can do this. You can do it blocked like I did. Or you can do it broken like this. And as always, we want to make sure we come down whether you're doing it blocked or broken. So on the way down, broken sounds just like this. And if you want to hear the blocked version going down, it's simply this. Now, those are just triad inversions in the key of C, but you can do it in any key. For example, D major. E major. If you need more help with chords and understanding inversions, make sure you check out my video on chords, which I'll link in the description below. That'll explain it really well. So at this point, you've done all the important things with your warm-ups. You're about halfway through your practice routine. Your 10 minutes is almost up. Now we have to focus on the actual music that you're playing right now. I'll show you two examples of pieces that we can play right now and how I would go about approaching them so you can make the most of the 5 minutes or so you have left in your piano practice. So let's talk about it right now. So at this point, you've done a couple technical exercises and you might have maybe 5 minutes left in your practice routine. That's just enough time to start working on some music. Now, understandably, you can't work on the entire piece right now, and that's not the goal of this. The goal is to get solid, consistent practice out so you can get great results. So what I would do at this point is make sure you isolate 4 measures of music that you can work on right now and then build on that every single day. So for example, here's the Sonatina in C major by Clementi and how it would work on the first 4 measures. So here's what we're gonna have. So that's your first 4 measures of the Sonatina. As you can see, we have a lot of coordination happening between both hands. So I'll take maybe 2.5 minutes or so of your 5 and just use it on the right hand playing slowly. And so that's the first half of the 4 measures. I would make sure you do that maybe 3 or 4 times in a row so you can do it always correct. Then when you're sure those 2 measures are great, then you start adding in the rest of the scale. Again, that's the more technical area, so you might want to do more repetitions on it. And the name of the game is repetition, so you want to be able to play something so many times in a row correctly, slowly, before you start adding speed and before you start adding more measures together. So looking in the beginning, I can see the left hand plays a bunch of C's in the beginning of the piece. So rather than playing them over and over again, I can just sustain that C across all those measures. That way I can play both my hands together and feel that sensation. So here's an example of that. At this point, the left hand now changes and goes down to the G position. Now there are 2 Gs, right? They're octave Gs. The first one's here, the next G is here, and then descending scale. So because those are both Gs, I can just make an octave G out of it like this and just do this with the hands together. And then the descending scale. Once I'm comfortable with all that, then I can break the piece apart as normal and play those 4 measures nice and slow. And before you know it, those 5 minutes that you had left are up, but you've accomplished a great deal. You have these 4 measures polished, you know where to go, you've worked on all your repetitions, and so the next day I would just add the next 4 measures, and then the next day the next 4 measures. It's a very systematic approach, but it works well when you're tight on time, especially as an adult pianist just learning how to go. I want to show you another example of how you can maximize short practice sessions when you're learning a piece. So we'll do the Mozart Sonata in C major so you can see exactly what I mean. So taking a look at this, there's a lot going on, right? You have this. So obviously that's a lot. Both hands are very busy, especially your left hand. But when I look at it, I can say, hey, I've actually practiced some of these things before in my warm-up routine, right? There are triads, both in root position and inversions. For example, measure 1 is just a root position, C major triad. If I look at measure 2, we got a little bit of a cluster. Back to our root position. Measure 3, we have an F major triad, but in the second inversion because it starts with the C. Back to the root position. Okay, and then we have a G major position in the first inversion, back to root position. So what this allows us to do is to play the right hand broken as written, but hold the left hand down like so. And so if you have any music where you can feel positions like that or identify triads or things you've already done in your warm-ups, it makes practicing it a lot quicker. Then when you're comfortable, you can start breaking it apart, going 2 measures at a time like we did in the other example, and then putting all 4 measures together. And there you have it. That is the 10-minute practice routine, the perfect 10-minute practice routine, I think, if you're a beginner adult pianist. So let's think about it for a second, right? You covered lots of technical exercises, you covered articulations, you covered scales, arpeggios, you covered triads, inversions, and you were able to see how some of those techniques and things happen within your own pieces of music. And at the very least, you got your hands moving for the day, and I think that's probably the most important thing about any practice routine. Getting the hands moving and not taking days off. So take 10 minutes and try this practice routine out. Let me know how it's working for you and drop a comment. That way, I know it's helping. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a thumbs up so I know you're enjoying the content. All right, with that being said, I'll see you around, but before you go, make sure you check out these 2 videos.